Oh, hi. We're back with the MechaTrellis, new version. What the heck does it say? Version 1.1, it says on the board. And a couple of new things going on here. Now this comes as a panel, already as a 4x4, not 4x4, 2x2, but 8x8 buttons, 2x2 panel, four boards all together in a panel already. If you don't want this to be this size grid, you can break these apart by snapping on the center lines and make a long version or do something different, or make them individual boards if you like. But that they come this way is cool because all we have to do then is connect them together. Um, because it's still four individual boards, they're not electrically connected in this layout. It's just easier to get them done for PCBA, the assembly for all the parts. So what we got to do is still connect the boards together in these four spots. Or if we're going to add on to a 16 wide, we would add on another set over here. But I'll get to that in a bit. New version of this, we had these connector PCBs previously. We're still going to use that as a little bit of a reference, but now there's some little holes on each of the pads for the connectors between them, and each kit is going to come with a piece, chunks of wire that I've got right here, and we're going to make little connectors to go for each of these spots. So let's just go ahead and do that. I'm going to set this one aside for a sec. The little PCB guys I made for the previous version, we're going to use this in a couple of ways. Mostly right now we're going to use it as a template to make our little wire staples that we want to make. So first thing you want to do is grab some pliers or something, and you're going to snap off the ends of the board that are sort of holding these little guys on. You only really need one of these, but you could snap them all off if you want to. And do that. Put those aside. And keep one of these. It doesn't really matter which one, but the one with the arrow going up is a good reference. So we need to make some little wire bits, which we can see right here. The way I'm kind of eyeballing this is each wire little bit you're going to make here is going to be about the width of these five pads on the little guy here. So it's kind of hard to maybe see at a distance, but you've got your five little castellated pads there, and just kind of set the wire next to it. Grab your flush cutters, and you're going to cut that off at about that size. And you want to make five of these or so. They don't have to be really precise, but you're going to need five for each of the connections. So there's going to be 20 of these all together. And I'm just going to kind of keep cutting these. That one's a little long, but it won't matter. The wire that's going to be included is just sort of roughly cut, so it won't matter too much. You might also want to have some tweezers. This might make this a little easier than using some pliers, but tools to have around are handy. So what we're going to want to do is make these straight guys into little staples, little U-shaped guys. So girls, I don't know, what gender are they, I think, is the gender for wire. Kind of hard to tell what I just did there, but we'll do this a few times. So I just made a little L shape out of this wire by sticking it into the little PCB and bending it over. It's probably hard to see against the black on black here, but once you've got one side in, this is the first time trying this, so bear with me. You can get it in place and then bend over the other side with your tweezers or with your fingers to make a little U-shaped guy. Now mine is shaped really poorly. Like I said, first time trying to do this. If you grab your pliers or something, you could flatten that out to be more of a U-shaped staple kind of thing. And this is what we're aiming for, is to have a little staple to connect these boards together. I'll come back to this in a second. I'm bending these, but while we've got that U-shaped guy, now I want to show you, I've dropped 2 or 3 of these on the floor already, but what we're going to do is this little staple is going to go into these 2 little holes for each of these connections. So you might need to like tweak them with your fingers a little bit just to get them sized right. And they're going to be a fairly snug fit, so you want to sort of work on this. Not ideal, but it's just what we're going to have to kind of work with now. A little easier than doing the maybe it's not easier, but easier solder for sure than doing just a wire across the pads there. If you get one end in, you can sort of like get the other one to sort of tweeze in there with the tweezers, and let's see what happens here. Let me get my magnifier going. So it's real close, and then if I just bend it a little bit more, hopefully I can get this in. Like I said, this is supposed to be easier. It doesn't seem easier at the moment, but hopefully this will be more mechanically strong once it's put together. Okay, hey, I finally got that in there. So now you can kind of see that's sticking up a little bit, and if we just press it through, it gives you a nice, good wire sticking through, and then those other bits are going to stick out the other side, and we're going to just trim those off later. So that's the plan. We want to make a bunch of these little staples, put them in all of these little 5 points for each board connection, and I'm just going to do that real quick, and I'll speed this up in post to account for the boringness of this. But as I go through this, it might get a little faster as I kind of figure this out. The other way to maybe do this would be to use your tweezers. Sort of like you'd bend resistors, you could sort of find a spot on your tweezers and like this, and then just bend that into a U shape like this. Takes a little while to maybe get the sizing figured out. If I get that close, then I can kind of just push it with my fingers and drop it into the holes and see if it works that way. So that may actually be a little bit easier, but might not be as sort of rectangular. And once you've got it there, you can use your tweezers or something flat to, something blunt like this to sort of press it into shape. Make sure you don't press too hard. You don't want to crack the boards and separate them at this point. The nice thing is for the 4-up here is that it's fairly rigid, but if you bend it too hard, it will sort of snap the V-cuts that are there. So I'm going to do this with my little guy here. You could also make the little bends first off of the big piece of wire and then trim it and see what happens. And I think doing it with the tweezers here may be the most effective way. I'm just going to go ahead and make some of these. If you've got something else, maybe that your tweezers or maybe your pliers might be a better way to sort of judge where the bend can be. It's like with my Leatherman here, maybe about right there is a good place. Let's try that. It actually may work a little better, a little faster than if they're not quite flat like this one is. Hopefully this is all visible. I'm just sort of doing it and talking here. So that might be a little better. Let's see where the distance is. You can sort of measure, eyeball it, but maybe halfway down the tip of my pliers here, and centered up, and then you can just sort of press with your fingers, make a little staple, and then flatten it if you need to, because it's a little twisty right there. Just because my bending technique is not quite unstoppable. All right, you may need to end up trimming. I don't think this is going to focus, but you may need to trim the ends of the little wire cuts if they got beat up when you were bending them or such. But let's kind of get back over here and see if I can make this work. That kind of went in pretty easy. Yeah, there we go. In theory, this int pin down here, the 5th one, doesn't even need to have a connector on it. It's not electrically connected anywhere. It's just there for sort of mechanical stability and sort of a leftover from the Adafruit design. So you can omit that one if you're feeling like you've bent enough pieces of wire and you don't want to deal with it. That one's not working so well. Let's try a different one. You may need to bend extra ones and then sort of use which ones would work. Okay, so we've got some little staples going on for each of these. I'm going to trim off a little bit of this last one. And so I'll trim off 0.5 millimeter at the end of that. And get my tweezers ready here. If you got big fat fingers like me, some tweezers are pretty handy. Probably a good idea not to drink too much coffee beforehand, doing a little fiddly work like this. That's kind of partway in. Will it go? Will it blend? Hey, there we go. Okay, so I've got my 5 little staples in there. You kind of see that, I hope. And now that they're in there, that's great. They're sticking out the other side, so what you probably want to do is prop this up on something. I have a little stick vise over here I can use for this. Bunch of wire and other crap in the way here. And I just want to like prop that up so these don't get pressed against when I'm going to solder this together. So we're just going to solder that real quick. And this should be the easiest part of the whole spiel. Press those in so they're kind of tight if you wanted to. As long as you've got a good connection, they don't have to be touching. You could try to get them a little flatter if you want to, but just get in there, heat that guy up, solder that one. You don't need a huge amount of solder. Just get the pads wet, give it a couple of seconds, make sure it's connected, and we can test these later, I guess. So that's a little bit easier than trying to do the bars across, I think. Same thing down here. A few of these pads are really close to the adjacent pins for the switches, so be real careful not to bridge across those gaps that are pretty small. The other thing, when soldering these, make sure the iron is touching both the pad and the little staple you put in, just to make sure that it's getting a good connection. So you should see those little rounded sort of mounds of solder there. Again, hard to see without doing a close-up camera kind of thing here. So we've done one of those, and it's looking pretty good to me. So hopefully down there we can see in focus. Then you're going to have these little guys sticking out of the other side. And this is where flush cutters come in handy. You really, 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 really want a good pair of these. Can't remember which brand this is. These are CHP 170. You can look that up on the Amazons. And these are great, so get some of those. Now, when you're cutting these, just get it flat. Don't dig in, don't scoop, don't do anything. Just get it flat, trim it off, dump the little piece of wire off the other side. And you want to make sure that's nice and flush because switches are going to be sitting right on top of these pins. Make sure the little clips you take off don't get stuck inside something else, like in the LEDs. And just do them one at a time. I'm kind of shaking off the little pin bits there off to the side here. Sometimes they stick to the cutters, but we've got those. And run your finger along it. If it still feels a little rough, maybe go back and do another quick little run over it and snip off the bits that might be sticking up a little high. This is probably the hardest part of doing it this way, just to get those nice and flush, especially the ones on the ends where the switches are going to sit, so you don't want those sitting up too high. Don't get too crazy about this. You don't want to cut into the solder mask or the black stuff here on the board. So we've done one of those. Great. We got to do 3 more, and then I'm going to give you the technique to do the joining of the 2 sets of boards, but we're not going to actually solder those together for this video. So let's keep this handy. We need to make some more staples, and we're going to go just to sort of fast forward mode here for the next little bit. Okay, cool. Got that next one done. This is going to take a little while. It's a little fiddly to get them all in there, but I think this is going to be worth it for this sort of mechanical stability where we won't have it sort of bending and pulling up the pads quite as much as it was previously. So let's solder those in. Okay, cool. So we've got the boards are soldered together with our little staples for each one. What we didn't do yet is separate the rails on the top and bottom. You still need to do that. I've got this glass glazer's tool for this sort of thing. You could use some needle nose pliers if you want. Just make sure you grab it and don't scratch the other boards when you do that. Something like this is kind of nice because it's got a little rubber kind of guy on the end, and just want to sort of get there and bend it enough to break the V-cut and snap that off. You can do each one individually. Again, try to make sure you're not pressing on other parts of the board to snap the other V-cuts. Do it a little bit at a time. Just kind of like, don't force it all at once, but it'll come apart easily. You may want to go with a piece of sandpaper really quickly, just one pass, just kind of rub it against a piece of sandpaper on both edges that you took the cuts off of, so it's not quite so rough. Do that in a well-ventilated place because this is fiberglass and you don't want it to breathe that in necessarily. So that's something you want to avoid. Let's find another board here and we'll show you the trick maybe we're going to use to connect these together. So we've got that one's done, our 4x4, or sorry, 4 boards, 4-up boards is ready. I've got another one over here which has not been connected yet, and we'll figure out how we're going to show you how to connect these. So again, orientation, arrows go up when you're joining 2 sets of these together. And you can line them up like this, and what I kind of think the trick is going to be here is you're going to use the little PCB joiners from before and use those as sort of an extra stabilization between them and make some staples. So let's make another little round of wires here. I think I'll need to get another piece of wire. I'm just going to kind of show you with a few of these that I've got handy, and you can kind of, the rest will be obvious. So I'll make another little staple thing. While I was doing these before, I realized making these a little bit longer makes it a little easier to bend them into position. So I may just give a little extra wire with each kit so that they're a little easier to work with. These should be exactly the same as resistor legs for sort of standard quarter watt resistors or LEDs. So if you've got extra bits of that around, it's also 22 gauge wire is the designation. The way I'm thinking about this, you want to get these nice and even. If you've got the rails off, might as well take the rails off of this one too. You can use something to sort of position against the bottom to make sure they're even and lined up. See how it came apart in two parts. Okay, so let's get rid of that. All right, let's get reconfigured here. So we've got up and up. These guys are going to line up down here. I usually have an extra PCB sitting around here somewhere, which is handy for lining things up. I don't know where that's gone off to. There it is. So just another PCB you can use sort of down at the bottom just to give them something flat to push against. And you want to kind of press them together a little bit so you've got good sizing and separation. I'm just going to show you the few of these. I'm not going to actually solder these two together, but we're going to get these two sets. If you want that little extra stability, you could use the little PCB spacer, and same routine as we did before. If I don't kind of pop these things across the room, you can kind of drop that in and put it around the existing thing. This may be more fiddly to use the little PCB connectors. I don't know. I'm still unsure about this method. You might try it and see if it works or not. You know, I would say try that if you think it's going to work. But if you're basically what that's going to do is kind of force that sizing to be as correct as we can. I think. I don't know. Maybe, but. This may work out the same if we just do it the same as we did the other ones. What I want to make sure is that when we put these in, that the boards don't slide kind of up and down, because these are going to stick out a little bit of the other side. So we need to make sure these don't kind of move up and down while we do these. Again, getting some of these with a little longer legs make them a little easier to get positioned. The shorter ones were much more difficult to sort of get in to the tiny little holes. So I think the other trick here is going to be using a piece of foam or something to get this up taller so we can press those through. So I'm going to grab that right now. 1 second. Hopefully that wasn't, I'll have to edit that noise out. Headphones making a big noise. All right, gonna have some red foam, I think, with each board set to make them a little easier to ship. So what I think we want to do here is, I've already got my little staples in there, because obviously this is going to move around and kind of slide around a bit, which we don't want to do too much. But if I can hold that and put the foam down underneath, I think double thick would be good. Set the boards down, kind of line them up. You're going to have to kind of eyeball this, I think, for snugness. Maybe one layer is enough. Let's try one layer. Let's see. Now that I've got that, I can just kind of pull that one out. So if we've got the kind of foam sitting there, get them kind of nice and lined up, and then once those staples are sort of partway in, press them in so they sort of snap into the foam. Now, the trick there is, I did that, and they're a little bit not lined up because the staples are not quite straight. So this is a crapshoot on what do you. I'm going to say this is the do what you think works best for you for assembly. You could do it the old way of just soldering something across to get them nice and lined up. You could use the staples. You could use the little PCB connectors as well. Getting the bend on these is probably more important for this particular joint, to get them nice and snug. So I'm not sure what to tell you there. Maybe it's go with more of a sort of bending U shape rather than a really hard U, because this one is kind of fitting really nicely. But these ones that are sort of more rectangular are not fitting quite as nicely. But the idea here is if you have it up on the foam, you can press the little staples into the foam and then kind of solder them down. The other thing could do is solder one together maybe on either side, and then you can bend it a little bit to get them to be a little more snug together. Maybe that'll work. Don't know what the best approach is. So I'm going to kind of leave it there, as this is a dealer's choice or player's choice maybe on what's the best solution. But make little staples, do a little U-shape bend. Do I have one more piece here? I do. If you did more of a gentle U like this, rather than a really hard U, is that easy to see there? Then that's probably a little easier to get bent into place, and then also to get it to be a little more snug together. So you can kind of get it in there like that. Yeah, I think this is a better assembly for rigidity. Once that's soldered together, it should be it could bend a little bit, but maybe that's fine because we have the wire there and it's not going to pull up the pads. So I think this is better. Report back and let me know what you think. You will need to refer to the old video for this for doing the addresses. Some folks in support had problems with their boards because they didn't do the addresses, which are these pads on each of the boards. You need to assign the address for each of the I2C devices, and it has to be in the right order if you're using the default firmware. So just check the GitHub for that information. But that is, I think, all we're going to do for this today. So let me hit me with comments if you got them, or jump on the Discord and ask questions when you're putting it together, and I'll try to help you out as best I can. Hopefully that was helpful. Maybe the last little thing you want to worry about, of course, is you want to take these little Captain tape guys off of each of the standoffs. I just use little tweezers. You can sort of poke in there or grab it from the edge. Razor blade or something like that can also be useful. Those guys stick to everything. Or you can just kind of do it with your fingernail and peel them off. But remember to get those off because it makes mounting a little bit easier. The other potential solution, so I'm just thinking about this now, one last thought, is if you've got your two sideboards for the 16x8, if you got the two sort of soldered together, the easy bits, and you're going to do this part, you could use the 3D printed case stuff that some people have made to position these a little better. So you could try that as well, to sort of flip that over and get these sort of lined up in a 3D printed case, or even make a jig for the outline to sort of hold them in place. So there's a thought. If you have a 3D printer, hit me up if you need help with that. But there are easier ways to sort of maybe make a jig to make this go together a little easier when you're doing the side to side, so that they're nice and snug. So that's all I got. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.